In the latest phase of Operation True Promise 3, on Thursday, Iranian armed forces launched a massive barrage of ballistic missiles at targets in the Zionist entity. The Palestinian Authority reported nearly 70 fatalities and over 200 injuries in the last 24 hours following Israeli troops' bombardment of the Gaza Strip. The Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda have signed a draft provisional agreement aimed at ending fighting in the eastern region, which is expected to be formally closed on June 27. Hello and welcome to From the South. I'm Alejandra Garcia from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. In the latest phase of Operation True Promise 3 on Thursday, Iranian armed forces launched a massive barrage of ballistic missiles at targets in the Zionist entity. In a statement, the Islamic Revolution Guard Corps IRGC said the 15th phase of the retaliatory operation against the Zionist entity involves both missiles and drones. The target of this phase, the statement noted, are military and industrial facilities affiliated with the Israeli military-industrial complex in both Tel Aviv and Haifa. The IRGC statement further said the drone operation earlier on Thursday involved more than 100 types of combat and suicide drones against Israeli military targets, especially anti-missile interceptions in Tel Aviv and Haifa. The government of Iran accused the International Atomic Energy Agency (IAEA) on Thursday of becoming a tool for states that do not comply with the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. The Iranian Foreign Ministry stated that the chairman of the agency, Rafael Grossi, has turned the agency into a partner in the war of aggression and a tool in the hands of the states that do not comply with the treaty. The statement pointed out that the report, which Grossi concealed and later acknowledged was the direct cause of the anti-Iranian resolution of the Board of Governors, which in turn served as a pretext for the Israeli aggression against the nuclear facilities and civilians. Meanwhile, the Iranian Foreign Ministry stressed that the country's diplomatic corps supports the Iranian armed forces in the fight against the aggression. The Iranian government accused Israel of deploying ineffective defense systems in urban areas in order to target civilians and justify increased aggression. The Islamic Revolutionary Guard denounced Israel for turning its territory into military barracks, generating a state of desperation and fear among the civilian population. Regarding this issue, Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz points the finger at Iran for attacks on hospitals and residential buildings in order to evade responsibility. The Iranian authorities claimed that the target was the command and intelligence headquarters of the Zionist forces next to the army intelligence camp in the Gavjan Technology Park near the medical center. In this context, let us recall that last Monday, Israel directly bombed the Farabi hospital in the city of Kermanshah, western Iran. The attack caused significant damage and much of the medical equipment was rendered useless. In addition, the explosion broke windows and injured several patients hospitalized in the affected areas. The intensive care unit was one of the most damaged, and structural damage to the building was also reported. On the other hand, since the start of Israel's genocidal campaign against the Palestinian population, hospitals in Gaza have been systematically destroyed, causing the collapse of the healthcare system. The World Health Organization reported that only 19 of the 36 hospitals in Gaza continue to function, at least partially, while 94% of them have suffered serious damage or have been completely destroyed. In addition, around 1,500 humanitarian workers have been killed by the occupation army. Following international outcry for the recent Iranian strikes on Israeli strategic facilities, Cuban Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez denounced the double standards in the treatment of the Iran-Israel conflict. In this regard, through a post on his social media X, Rodriguez stressed, "Where are those who claim that there is never any justification for one state to launch a preemptive attack on another?" The Cuban diplomat then finished by asking, "Are there then good and bad preemptive attacks, double standards, or complicity with the aggressor?" In this scenario, Russia and China condemn Israel's actions against Iran, denouncing them as a violation of international law. As reported by Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov, Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping held a telephone call on Thursday where they strongly condemned Israel's actions, which violate the United Nations Charter and other norms of international law. Furthermore, Putin and Xi agreed to the de-escalation was needed in the ongoing conflict, as the Russian president reportedly confirmed Moscow's willingness to act as mediator for talks between Tehran and Tel Aviv. Both leaders agreed that a solution to the conflict must be achieved through political and diplomatic means instead of military. In this context, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova warned the United States against military intervention in the Iran-Israel conflict, alerting of its negative consequences.
We will continue to support the goals of a settlement on the Iranian nuclear program, with due reliance on international law, the principle of equal and indivisible security, as well as mutual consideration. We would like to particularly warn Washington against military intervention in the situation, which would be an extremely dangerous step with truly unpredictable negative consequences.
For his part, the Chinese Foreign Ministry urged countries with major influence to create conditions for ceasing hostilities and resuming dialogue in the Middle East.
The situation in the Middle East is tense and delicate and facing the risk of getting out of control. China opposes any move that violates the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and a country's sovereignty, security, and territorial integrity, and opposes using or threatening to use force in international relations. The international community, major with influence in particular, needs to maintain a fair position and responsible attitude, create conditions for reaching a ceasefire and returning to dialogue and negotiation, prevent the situation from sliding into abyss and triggering an even larger disaster.
And now we have a short break coming up, but first remember you can join us on TikTok at teleSUR English, where you'll find news in different formats, news updates and more. We'll be right back, stay with us. Welcome back to From the South. The Palestinian Authority reported nearly 70 fatalities and over 200 injuries in the last 24 hours following Israeli troops' bombardment of the Gaza Strip. The Palestinian Health Ministry reported that 12 civilians, including 3 children, were killed in an attack on tents housing displaced people in the Al-Shati refugee camp. 3 more were killed by an Israeli bombardment on a street in Al-Hala, west of Gaza. Israel's ongoing genocide has left more than 55,000 victims, despite calls from the international community for an immediate ceasefire. Also in Palestine, soldiers occupying the area opened fire on crowds seeking humanitarian aid, killing 10 civilians. Zionist forces fired machine guns and drones at Palestinians seeking food aid near Netzarim, leaving at least 60 people wounded. The enclave has been experiencing a catastrophic humanitarian crisis since the Zionist regime closed all crossings and denied entry of food, medicine, humanitarian aid and fuel into the strip. The Democratic Republic of the Congo and Rwanda have signed a draft provisional agreement aimed at ending fighting in the eastern region, which is expected to be formally closed on June 27th. According to a joint statement issued late on Wednesday from the two countries and the United States Department of State, the development came after 3 days of constructive dialogue regarding political, security and economic interests. The draft agreement contains provision on issues including disarmament, the integration of non-state armed groups and the return of refugees and internally displaced people. The Congolese armed forces have repeatedly accused Rwanda of backing M23 rebels in a decades-long conflict that escalated in January when the rebels advanced and seized the strategic city of Goma, followed by the town of Bukavu in February. The conflict has created one of the world's worst humanitarian crises and has displaced more than 7 million people. The Russian Defense Ministry confirmed on Thursday the latest prisoner swap with Ukraine as part of a deal reached earlier in June at peace negotiations in Istanbul, Turkey. According to the authority, the group of Russian servicemen was returned from the territory controlled by the Kyiv regime and exchanged for a group of Ukrainian armed forces soldiers. The militiamen are currently on Belarusian territory, where they are reportedly being provided with the necessary medical and psychological assistance. In addition, the Russian nation's defense ministry informed that the servicemen will be soon transported to Russia for treatment and rehabilitation at the institution's medical facilities. At a briefing with international news agencies on Wednesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin expressed its readiness to continue negotiations with Ukraine, noting that the previous round of talks had paved the way for the current exchange of prisoners.
We don't care who leads the negotiations, even if it's the current head of the regime. I'm even ready to meet, but only if it's some kind of final stage, so that we are not sitting there endlessly dividing something, but putting a full stop. There must be a signature of a legitimate authority. We are ready to continue these negotiations. Right now, on the humanitarian track, the situation overall is such that these negotiations make sense. We have already agreed to exchange 1,200 prisoners. We are bringing back people, that's good. We have already handed over 500 people and received 400 back. I believe that everything will be fair here. We will get everyone we are supposed to get.
The 28th edition of the International Economic Forum in St. Petersburg, Russia, continues on its second day with the presence of at least 140 countries and the attendance of more than 20,000 people. On June 19th, a number of activities will be held, including an important meeting of university representatives from around the world who will discuss a new teaching model, the progress of technology and in service to society, and Russia's role in the era of trade wars will also be discussed. These activities will continue until June 21st and are centered around the theme Shared Values, the Basis for Growth in a Multipolar World, featuring Bahrain as the guest country. The governments of Russia and China highlight the growth in bilateral economic cooperation thanks to the good relations between their heads of state. The Russian President Vladimir Putin and his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping held a telephone conversation in which they highlighted the confidence in their strategic alliances to further boost growth and development in their nations. The leaders emphasized that despite global challenges and sanctions by the United States, they have seen a notable increase in the results of their trade and economic agreements. Both leaders stressed that part of the international agenda is to strengthen their commitment and coordinate efforts both in the BRICS and in other meetings platforms for a more balanced and fairer multipolar world. President Xi Jinping urged the advancement of the construction of a community with Central Asian countries and the promotion of trade cooperation through the Belt and Road Initiative. In his opening speech at the second China-Central Asia Summit in Astana, Kazakhstan, the president emphasized the strengthening of ties of friendship and cooperation among Asian nations. He emphasized that the 6 member countries seek to promote modernization through high-quality, win-win collaborations based on mutual respect and mutual benefit. He announced that China and the Central Asian countries would sign a treaty of good neighborliness and permanent friendly cooperation to promote security and stability in the region. We have a second short break coming up. Before we invite you to visit our Facebook page at teleSUR English, there you'll be able to watch our top stories, special live coverage and much more. Follow our page and activate the notification button to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. Final short break, don't go away. Welcome back to From the South. In Venezuela, during the inauguration of the Sport and Cultural Complex House of the Worker, the President Nicolás Maduro condemned Israel's attacks against the Middle East. The President said the Islamic Republic of Iran has defended itself in accordance with international law in self-defense. Further, he denounced the international media censorship of the situation in Israel. He also commented on the large mobilizations that took place in Venezuela to call for peace in the world and the end of wars and imperialist maneuvers that seek to lead the people of Iran to a nuclear war. In this sense, he indicated that U.S. President Donald Trump has wanted this war for years. Likewise, the Venezuelan head of state called for the protection of the youth for the welfare of the future. The people of Venezuela mobilized in rejection to war and in favor of global peace. The march takes place in solidarity with the people of Iran in the face of the genocidal attacks of the Israeli regime. The people march through the main avenues of the capital city of Caracas in solidarity with the Iranian people in the face of the genocidal onslaught of Tel Aviv. The demonstrators carried Iranian and Venezuelan flags as a symbol of union between the two nations. The Palestinian ambassador to Venezuela, Fadi al-Saben, accompanied the initiative of the Venezuelans and highlighted their solidarity and support in the midst of difficulties while demanding the cessation of the genocidal attacks of the Zionist regime of Israel against the Palestinian people. In the Altos Mirandinos of Venezuela, the mass and tour of the Dancing Devils of Yare took place as part of the religious festivity of Corpus Christi. Inscribed in 2012 as intangible cultural heritage of humanity, the Dancing Devils of Yare is a religious festivity that represents the triumph of good over evil. During the event, several men in devil's costumes danced outside the diocesan Eucharistic sanctuary in honor of the Holy Sacrament. Previously, the Diablada Yarense obtained the permission to dance in the Corpus Christi after his procession with Jesus Sacramentado towards the cross of Calvario for the traditional wake. In other news, the President of Panama, José Raúl Molino, assured that he will not repeal the law on Social Security. In spite of the intense demonstrations that have spread throughout Panama for almost 2 months, President Molino affirmed that he will not repeal Law 462 on the Social Security Fund, assuring that it is a national achievement. During his statement, the head of state warned that it is a waste of time to insist on repealing the law and rule out a revision of the pension law. Meanwhile, social sectors and labor unions remain in the streets demanding that the measure be vetoed in spite of government repression and the recent arrest of working-class leaders. The Council of State in Colombia suspended the decree calling for a national popular consultation on labor and social rights. The decision was made as part of processing a nullity action filed against the presidential decree. Through this decree, 12 questions reflecting the spirit of labor and health reforms were to be brought to the polls. While the decision does not definitely prohibit the consultation, it does paralyze any institutional progress derived from the suspended decree for the time being. President Gustavo Petro said the Senate's board of directors could use the provisional suspension of the decree to stop the conciliation process of the labor reform, which establishes new rights. In Mexico, Hurricane Eric made landfall in the state of Oaxaca on Thursday as a Category 3 storm on the Saffir-Simpson scale, triggering heavy rains and floods. The storm hit the municipality of Pinotepa Nacional at 5:30 a.m. local time with maximum sustained wind gusts of 205 km per hour, leaving extensive material damage, road closures, and flooding in at least 14 municipalities of the state. As a consequence, high waves are being reported in Puerto Escondido, while in Huatulco, authorities inform water has entered homes and hospitals. Despite the magnitude of the phenomenon, authorities have yet to confirm any fatalities, but one person was injured by a falling fence. In this context, Mexican President Claudia Sheinbaum announced the suspension of all activities, encouraging citizens to take shelter and stay informed.
Suspendieron absolutamente todas las actividades.
All activities have been absolutely suspended. The recommendations are to take shelter in your homes, not to go out, and to stay together as a family. If you live near rivers or in low-lying areas, move to the shelters. Stay together and stay informed through official channels. The Defense Plan and the Navy Plan are underway, as well as the Federal Electricity Commission. There is a lot of coordination between federal, state, and municipal institutions.
Y mucha coordinación entre las instituciones federales.
And like this, we have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net and join us on social media. We are on Facebook, X, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok as well. For Telesur English, I'm Alejandra Garcia. Thank you for watching.